it's been a month since I've done it, so
Here are the steps we do.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's there now. This wouldn't show up.
So now, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Wait a minute. Just click off that, get rid of that.
Yeah, that's what I do. The problem is I couldn't get to that
So now
screen.
you're good.
All right. All right, let me bring everybody back.
In the rain. Store.
Luke, I lost the contact visiting room. I shut my system down for a minute, so I'm going to need him back in. Thanks. Bring it. All right, we have a live feed now. We haven't started recording yet. We had to make doubly sure the chat was turned off. We'd had some glitches here recently. They're bringing the defendant back from the jail. I shut that channel off. So give me one moment. Okay.
Hi. Hi. Good day here. No.
Well, I don't know what's doing where you are, but it's pouring rain here. Let me bring the defendant in. Good afternoon once again, Mr. Dingman. I'll leave it up to you. You can take your mask off or leave it on. And Kylie, I'm going to mute your microphone. All right, Laura, let's go on the record. This is the time and date for the continued preliminary examination in the matter of People versus Ethan Nicholas Dingman. Mr. Dingman is connected here with us. We are on the Zoom platform. We are streaming on YouTube. Also present is Special Cross-Prosecuting Attorney Amy Shepard and counsel for the defendant, Mr. William Weesey. Also present is the officer in charge of this case, Chief Mark Brinkert from the Colon Police Department. We continue this matter from last Tuesday afternoon, June 1st, until today. The court gave an opportunity for the prosecution to present any additional evidence if they wished. So let me tell you who's in the waiting room. I have Donald P., who's from the crime lab. I have Jatendra, I don't know who that is. I have Kevin's phone, and I have Michelle Schmidt.
Mr. Donald and Ms. Schmidt are the two witnesses that we would be presenting from the crime lab. I am not positive, but I believe the rest of the people might be family participating who are not present, in addition to the ones who are not present in the courtroom.
Well, they also may be just in the wrong courtroom, so let's find out who Jatendra is. Good morning, sir. What case are you here for?
Okay.
I see a lot of ceiling fans. Sir, what case are you here for?
Yes,
What's your name?
Jitendra Patel.
Why are you here?
There is a lawyer office call me and she send me a ID, Zoom ID number to connect the meeting.
Well, this is a middle of a murder preliminary examination, so I'm not sure what it is, but it isn't this. So,
Sorry, sir. The
uh,
guy name is Reggie King, and
oh, Reggie King. All right,
yeah,
okay, I got it. All right, let me tell you to call this number. Do you have something to write on?
yeah.
All right, file number is 445-049-81.
Just a second, sir. Just a second. 445
049
049.
8188.
So I have to call this number.
Correct.
Okay, I'll call.
All right, thank you. That's not your fault. We moved some things around. So
Okay.
call that number and they'll be waiting for you there.
Okay, no problem, sir.
All right. What had happened is I had traded some things with Judge Pattison to open up this afternoon. So some witnesses, as you saw, got a notice to contact this court. They weren't doing anything wrong. We had just not updated them. So, all right, I think we're where we need to be now. Although we don't know who Kevin's phone is. Every day it's a struggle to get all our waterfowl in a row to. Do you guys know who this is? Kevin's iPhone, who am I speaking with?
Deputy Penn. Sorry, we
All
don't
right.
have power, so I don't have internet. Not sure if this is going to work or not.
All right, which case are you calling in for, Kevin?
Reggie King.
All right, I'll tell you the same thing I told the last people. It's been moved over to Judge Pattison's courtroom. You got a pen?
I'm trying to find one.
Crayon?
Yep, go ahead.
Magic marker? Quill pen? All right, the number is 445-049-8188. It's been moved over to Judge Pattison's court.
Okay, is that the Zoom ID then?
Yes, it is.
Perfect, thank you much.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm sorry. I think we've got what we need. At any rate, this is the time and date for the continued preliminary examination in this case. The court gave the opportunity for the prosecution to present any additional evidence if they wished. The matter was continued till this time and date. Ms. Shepard, do you wish to produce any additional evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. The people intend to call two witnesses. That would be Paul Donald and Michelle Schmidt, both from the Michigan State Police Forensic Laboratory in Grand Rapids. Additionally, we have one more report that we would submit to the court pursuant to MCL 766.11B1D. I did email mid-morning Mr. Weesey about this to see if he had any objections or if we could stipulate so I could send it to the court ahead of time. However, I believe he was otherwise occupied and did not get to see that email until right before we came into court. And so I would be moving to admit that at the end of the testimony of these other two witnesses. But I'm just making the court aware of that at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, who do you wish to call first?
We will call Paul Donald.
Do you want me to clue Michelle Schmidt in as to what we're doing?
I told her yes to Friday, how we would be proceeding, so she was aware that Mr. Donald would be testifying before her.
All right. Good afternoon, sir. Are
Hello.
you Paul?
Yes, sir.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm any testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Would you state your name and spell your first and last name, please?
Paul Donald. Paul-Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. Prosecutor Amy Shepard has questions for you, and then Defense Counsel Mr. William Weesey will have some questions for you as well. Madam Prosecutor?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Donald, where do you work?
I work at the Michigan State Police Crime Lab, which is located in Grand Rapids.
And what do you do there?
I perform forensic biology.
Now, in your capacity as performing forensic biology for the crime lab, are part of your responsibilities examining evidence for the potential for DNA analysis? All right, and I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. Could you state your answer again?
Yes.
Thank you. And is there a standard procedure that you follow in performing this type of inspection?
Absolutely.
And what's that standard procedure?
Well, when given items like articles of clothing, the procedure starts with a visual examination of the items in order to determine if there are any plainly visible stains on the items. And then after a cursory visual examination of the evidence, then the items can be subjected to an alternate light source if necessary in order to enhance any stains that may or may not be visible under just normal visible light conditions. And then once any particularly interesting stains are identified, then move on to a presumptive screening tests that can be used to determine whether or not the stains can be, like, for instance, a reddish brown stain could be a blood stain, or if a stain that's not visible with the naked eye that lights up with the alternate light source, that could be tested for possibly semen or saliva. And then once any particular stains of interest are identified, then a sample of those areas of interest are collected and stored in a sterile environment until they can be processed with DNA analysis.
In terms of the presumptive screenings, are you familiar with something called hemosticks?
Yes.
And is that something that you use for in performing these presumptive screenings?
Yes.
And can you describe for the court what hemosticks is and how you use it?
First, could you spell it for the reporter?
Absolutely. Hemosticks is
We're
spelled,
losing your microphone. You're in and out a little bit.
Hemosticks is spelled Hemastix, and it's a trademarked item that's available predominantly for use in the testing for blood, like for people who might have diabetes can use these test strips to check their urine for blood. So they're very sensitive for blood, and they're very sensitive for some. They will react with other things too. So it's not very specific, but it's very sensitive. So we use them to test for the possibility of blood, and so it's a color test, and an unused hemostix is yellow, and when it comes in contact with blood, it turns a dark green. So it's very clear if possibly blood has touched the hemostix. So we would call that a positive result.
Now, you indicated that after performing a visual observation, as well as potentially if you have to do any other observations, like with an alternative light source, and performing these presumptive screenings, that you collect samples. How do you go about collecting those samples?
Depending on the item of evidence, either a sterile swab can be used to collect a stain, or an actual cut of the item that the blood stain is on can be taken from the item in order to be forwarded to DNA for analysis.
Is there a reason why you might choose to swab something or to cut something rather than the other?
So, like for instance, a hard non-porous surface would definitely be easier to take a swab of that item. And then for items like clothing, clothing offers more of a possibility for a mixture of future DNA analysis, because you might get DNA that was imparted on the item prior to the event in question, or like DNA from the person that was wearing the clothing. So depending on the nature of the sample that's being collected, sometimes it might be better to actually take a swab of an area of clothing that might have a blood stain on it, as opposed to a cut of that item, in order to kind of reduce the possibility of a DNA mixture future down the road.
Now, in the course of your employment with the Michigan State Police Forensic Laboratory, did you assist with the investigation in a case involving a suspect of Ethan Dingman and the victim of Todd Schwartz?
Yes.
And in fact, did you respond to the scene initially in this case in order to assist?
I don't recall.
Okay, but following that, did you have the opportunity to inspect some items that had been collected into evidence to determine whether or not they may be suitable for DNA analysis? And following this investigation or this process, did you author a report summarizing your findings? And I'm sorry, you're breaking out again. Was that a yes?
Yes.
I'm going to show you on the screen share what's already been admitted into evidence as People's Exhibit 13. Do you see the item on your screen?
Yes.
Do you recognize this document? If you need to see more, that's okay.
Yes, it looks familiar, and I see my signature at the bottom of the report at the signature block area.
So is this the report that you authored summarizing your examination of the various pieces of evidence?
Yes.
All right. So I'd just like to go through a few of these pieces of evidence with you. Starting with what's been labeled in your report as GR19-7142-1. Those items on your report are indicated as shoes. Did you examine those shoes for the possibility of DNA, or for suitability for DNA analysis?
Yes.
And how did you go about doing that?
Well, like I said before, starting with the visual examination, and there were reddish brown stains readily visible on these shoes, and there were reddish brown stains noted on the tops of both shoes, on the side of the shoes, and on the bottom of the right shoe.
After observing this, did you also perform a presumptive screening?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
I selected two areas of the right shoe, and one from the top and one from the bottom, and they were both positive for the possible presence of blood.
Now, did you go about performing or collecting a sample for possible DNA analysis?
Yes.
And how did you do that for the shoes?
That involves just taking a sterile swab and you moisten it with a little bit of sterile water, and then you just rub gently on the reddish brown stain that's been identified as possibly blood. And then it's dried, and then the portion of the swab that lifted the blood stain is cut away from the swab and placed in a sterile microcentrifuge tube, and then it's placed in frozen storage until it can be processed in the future for DNA analysis.
And why did you decide to go with a swab in this instance as opposed to a cutting of the shoe?
Well, shoes are a thick, porous surface that can be difficult to cut. So, like my example earlier with hard surfaces, it's more convenient to take a swab of the stained area. And in addition, if you're taking a cut of that shoe, you may be getting layers of years worth of other stuff that's been imparted on the shoe prior to the event in question, whereas a sterile swab lightly rubbed on the top of that affected area will likely just focus on picking up the most recent event that imparted the reddish brown stain on the shoe, as opposed to the history of the shoe.
And when you're worried about other stuff, do you mean also potentially other DNA contributors?
Absolutely.
Moving on to DR19-7142-3, and your report indicates that those are pants. However, there's two different pants listed on the report, specifically regarding GR 19-7142-3. Which pants are those?
They're a pair of, I'm guessing nylon sport pants.
And when you say you're guessing, do you mean as to like the material that makes up the pants?
Correct.
And did you find that it might be provide the potential for analysis for the presence of DNA?
Yes.
And how did you determine that?
Well, there were some reddish brown stains that were visible under normal lighting, and then with the aid of an alternate light source, there were several smaller stains that were also noted on the pants.
And so then did you perform a presumptive test on them as well?
Yes.
And was that positive?
Yes.
And did you end up taking a sample for the purposes of potential DNA analysis?
Yes.
And was it a swab this time as well?
Yes.
Moving on to GR 19-7142-7, items listed in your report as glasses. How did you evaluate those?
First of all, after taking the glasses out of the sealed package, that it was submitted to the laboratory, and there was just a cursory visual examination of the item, and on the glasses there were 4 reddish brown stains that were readily noted on the glasses.
And did you also do a presumptive test on those stains as well?
Yes.
And was it positive?
Yes.
And did you take a sample for testing purposes?
Actually, 2 samples were taken from the glasses.
Okay. And were those samples swabs again?
Yes.
Moving on to GR 19-7142-8, listed as a shirt. Do you remember how the shirt appeared, what color it was?
Yes, it was a light gray shirt and had some writing on the front of it.
Just a minute. I'm not seeing a 19. evidence received, 1 through 12.
And I think I misspoke. Let me try again.
Because there's 2 shirts.
Yes. And so in regards to GR, I'm doing this right. GR 19-71428. Is that the item listed as a shirt in your report?
Yes.
And then GR 17-71429 is listed as a sweatshirt?
Yes.
All right. In regards to the shirt, what color is the shirt?
I believe it was a gray t-shirt. Had some writing on the front of it.
All right. And in regards to the sweatshirt?
Color of the sweatshirt?
Yes.
That was hard to tell. The sweatshirt was essentially soaked in blood and it was putrid. I didn't make a note of color of the sweatshirt.
Okay. All right. And in regards to that t-shirt, the GR 19-7142-8, did you, what did you do to see whether or not it would be suitable for DNA analysis?
Just the presumptive test with the hemosticks as before.
And was that positive?
Yes.
And did you take samples for testing?
Yes.
And how did you do those?
With a sterile swab and just moistened with sterile water, like I said before, and then lightly rubbed on the blood stain that was on the shirt.
Now, moving on to item GR 19-7142-10D, was that a listed or a submitted buccal swab from the suspect in this case?
You're asking about item 10D?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have a 10D, I have a 10.
I think if you scroll, or if you go down to the second page of the report, the very last item on page 2.
Okay.
And I think to clarify that, Mr. Donald, in Michigan State Laboratory reports, if a lab number is followed by the letter lowercase d, what does that mean?
That's a sample of an item. So the D just signifies or denotes a derivative sample that was taken from a larger evidence item. So in this case, the item would have been identified as 10, and then the sample that's taken from item 10, we add a little D in order to signify that that sample was taken and forwarded to DNA for DNA analysis.
And is that what happened in this case with the buccal swab from Ethan Dingman?
Yes.
And finally, moving on to item GR 19-7142-12, listed as fingernails. Did you attempt to do anything to see if they were suitable for DNA analysis?
Yes. So with regard to the fingernails, I guess the goal with regard to something like a victim's fingernails is to try to determine if their hands came into contact with anything, and during the event in question. And so, like in situations like this where there may or may not be reddish brown stains on fingernails, when I'm collecting a sample from the fingernails, if there's reddish brown stains, it's safe to assume that those large reddish brown stains could be attributed to the victim. So I would focus to areas that don't have reddish brown stains in case there's the opportunity to possibly collect microscopic amounts of contact or transfer DNA that might be stuck underneath the fingernails.
And is that something that you did in this case?
Yes.
And how is it that you take a sample from the areas that wouldn't have any staining on it?
Well, just like I explained before, with taking a sterile swab that's moistened with sterile water, and then and again focusing on those areas away from the reddish brown stains to try to get a sample of any potential DNA that might have been imparted onto the fingernails.
And when you testified in regards to the sample taken from the shoes, you also testified to the process of preserving the items for ultimately being analyzed for potential DNA analysis. Was that the same thing you did with the rest of the samples, the items we've just discussed?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. I don't have any further questions from you at this moment, but Mr. Weesey may.
Mr. Weesey?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
I have a couple. Could we show the items to the witness, the photographs?